Okay then, this is one for one of our members who's requested just a bit of info on Gege locks. Okay, Gege locks, obviously just a brand of Euro cylinder type locks. Locks in themselves, nothing spectacular about the locks, but saying that, they are extremely hard to pick if you're picking them by hand. Okay, the main reason that they are quite hard to pick is obviously because they do incorporate anti-pick features, and the main problem is with the type of anti-pick pins that they put in these locks. Locks come in 5 or 6 pin, but regardless of 5 or 6 pin, they all tend to have the same type of anti-pick pins. Okay, and what the anti-pick pins look like, so if anyone obviously knows what anti-pick pins tend to look like, most time like spools, hence spool pins. Much the same thing here, but what we actually have is this little pin here, and that's what we call a serrated pin. And it's obviously because it has, in this case, the 2 serrations on the pin itself. So they're a little bit like a spool pin. Okay, designed to do much the same thing, i.e. bind the plug whilst the lock is being picked. But because they are serrated, it does make it all the more difficult to pick. And also what you tend to find is on Gege locks, and lots of other brands obviously that use serrated pins, they tend to change all of the top pins, as opposed to some spool pin types where only 2 or 3 perhaps out of 5 pins are changed. You tend to find that all the pins, whether it's a 5 or 6 pin, will be changed to these serrated type pins. Okay. Now these locks, they can be picked by hand, i.e. they can be picked with basic hand picks, but they do take time. You can use either a raking technique, a brushing technique, etc. You can try perhaps a hook picking technique, but either way, whichever way you go about it, rest assured they are going to take a bit of time to pick. But just like any lock, 1 out of every 10 lock you're going to find is going to go extremely quickly, and some will take a lot more work. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to start off with this one. I'm just going to start off with a couple of hand picks. Okay, and it's more than likely within the time frame that I've got, because I only get 10 minutes on YouTube, and I never cut my videos, that is more than likely not going to pick in that time. So what you'll see me doing, I'll be going through a process where I tend to go from perhaps hand picks to pick guns, and always as a last resort, because anyone who knows me knows that I don't particularly like bump keys, but at the end of the day they do the job, and they're there to be used, so if need be, use them. Okay, so just going to zoom in on this a little bit. So what I want you to see is any perhaps little bit of play that I get, or movement on the plug. But as I say, you don't tend to get a vast amount on these. Okay, so pop my tension tool in there. And before anyone writes in or emails me, yes, I do always put my tension tool at the bottom of these plugs at first. Okay, so what I'm going to do is start to brush along the top of these pins, and all the time just very light on the tension, very small tweaks on and off. And all I'm doing at the moment, I'm just looking for any little bit of give that I get on the plug, etc. I can hear lots of pins resetting, so at least I know the lock's being worked. And every now and again I'll get 1 or 2 pins that seem to want to bind a little bit, and that tends to indicate either that I'm engaging some of them serrated pins, or pins are actually finding their place, but you'll never know because we can't see in there. Just try it. Another pin. And all the time just as light as I can be. Now and again I'm just giving them front pins a little bit more work, and then the back pins. See, my pick wants to bind a little bit every now and again, and that's just where pins are, like I say, either engaging the serrated pins or finding their place. I'm going to try one more pick. Okay, and as I say, these locks will eventually pick if you're persistent with hand picking. Okay, whether you're using a raking type technique or hook picking, whichever it may be, eventually it is going to go. But in the real world of locksmithing, if you're actually doing it as a job, you can't afford to be picking a lock like this for half hour or so on site when somebody's locked out. From a hobbyist and a practicing point of view, you can. Very nice bit of give there, but that's probably just some serrated pins, so just easing back on the tension a touch. Okay, so you can see that I am getting bits of give every now and again, and I am getting slight binding of some of the pins as I pick, which is indicating that this lock's being worked. But if I persisted, like I say, it'll eventually go. But in my time frame, I can't do that. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to swap over to perhaps giving this a go with, I'll try a pick gun first. Okay, so what I'm going to swap over to, I've got a basic electric pick gun here. Okay, I could also try a hand operated pick gun, makes no difference. In this case, got this to hand. Okay, so tension tool back in, sorry about my hand in the way there. Okay, and all I'll be doing, just the underside of the pick gun blade, because it's actually the underside on here which works the pins. And as I do that, very slight in and out movement, just to make sure that I'm catching all them pins. Okay, so tension tool in position. Just get the blade to rest just on the pins. See how I've got the gun at a turn, because that's where the pins are. What I'm doing again all the time, just very slightly on and off with the tension. Okay, and you can see it's there, just gone there. So even that took a little bit of time. Okay, it's not going to go straight away. Remember, no two locks are the same. Okay, so that's this lock being picked with the pick gun. Okay, so now what I do, quickly show you bumping. Okay, so the way that I bump, as I say, I don't particularly like the technique, but it's been around for a long time, many years. Last 100 years or so, but I'll show you that it does actually work. Okay, so bump key all the way in. I always start off just one pin out. Now I know it's a Gege, so I know it's got anti-pick, because what I always do is start one pin, see if I can hear pins being worked as I release off the tension. If it doesn't go, then I start coming out 2 pin, then try 3 pin, etc. And always nice and light on the bump and very light on the turn. Okay, so one pin out first, nice and light bump. You can hear 1 or 2 pins being reset, but not the amount that I'd like to. And note as well how I'm going at a sensible speed. You see it goes there, so I'm not like you sometimes see, and there's nothing wrong with that if it works, if you've got a padlock in your hand or one of these in your hand, but obviously it's going to be on a door. Okay, so you can see that the lock could be bumped as well.